people are dead. They're living and they're dead. You know the Bible says, you see but you don't see, you hear but you don't hear? They're dead. We're talking about people in this country.
Men are abused as well. And because of the patriarchal system in our culture, that means that men can't fess up.
But the problem is we've got the church, of course, because everybody's saved and everybody goes to church, everybody's singing happy hallelujah, right? And everybody's happy. And they're all saved and we're all going to meet glory in heaven. It's a lie.
But as a child, I was sexually abused. And
Body, right? Because it's demonic. Sexual abuse is demonic.
Here are my problems with lustfulness or pornography. How many men in our churches are struggling with that, which is actually feeding into slavery and trafficking?
I don't agree with you.
no, okay.
No, I don't agree with you.
Disagree.
See, I don't agree with you, see, because you're talking about adults, and there's a difference. I mean, that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's very different.
Yeah, quite
Talking
clear.
about domestic abuse is a completely different life. As a matter of fact, to be honest, the people like this got more sense than the people in the church. Because the church, our role, we're supposed to know God.
Welcome back, guys, to Sound Words. We're at episode 4 now, and now we're talking about abuse in the home. I've got 4 amazing people with me today to talk about this topic. Introduce yourself, guys.
Hi, I'm Christine. Today I'll be sharing part of my story with you guys.
Hi, I'm G. Patchett. I work with people that have been sexually abused, and we run a charity that works with people that have been sexually abused.
Hi, I'm Natalia. I work doing training with young people about trafficking, grooming and sexual abuse.
And my name is Carolina. I work for Restored, and we work to end violence against women, and particularly work with domestic violence and the response from the church.
Okay, Caroline, I'll start with you. And obviously, when I thought about this topic and the severity of it, we're talking about abuse in the home. And the reason why we use the word home is because that's meant to be a place of comfort, a place of safety, and a place where people ought to be themselves and without any oppression. Tell us one of the stories that you have for us, for our viewers.
Yeah. Well, I guess I will start with saying that my specialty is domestic abuse, and I think I'm going to tell you domestic abuse is a pattern of behaviors that are controlling and coercive, and in themselves harm the people that are affected by it. And the reason I want to give you a definition is because then if I tell you that 2 women a month are killed in the UK by their partners, or 4 women in our churches are victims of domestic abuse, then probably you will be more likely to stay tuned rather than dismiss the definition. So domestic abuse is a reality in every home, whether it's a Christian home or whether it's not. Sadly, we have found that faith is not a protective factor against domestic abuse. It can actually have a faith could increase the abuse, because faith can be used to enhance that abuse. But we believe that the church has a place to do, and that this is against the idea that Christ has for us as couples. And that is my specialty, so this is what I'm going to talk about. So when I talk about domestic abuse, I tend to bring different examples of it. But recently, sadly, I've been accompanying a friend of mine through a process that it didn't started as being very clearly a domestic abuse situation. It was probably what you would say is a couple having some problems. But all changed when she became pregnant. And the moment when she became pregnant, all these behaviors that you will classify as probably he's a bit angry or a bit stressed or he doesn't control his emotions, then it became much more than that. And he became even more violently. Not physically, there was never any physical violence, but it was emotional violence all the time, increased by this pregnancy. And I have worked in this sector for 6 years already, but even though it's very different when it's a friend of yours, someone you know, both of them experience it. And what I want to share with you this moment is that through the process, there was a lot of shouting and a lot of put her down in front of us in her own home. And at some point, this woman did tell me, I wish he will slap me. I wish he will do something physical. Because then at that point, I will realize what you're telling me is abuse, it is. Because it's not happening physically, it's very difficult. So domestic abuse is largely not physical. So don't believe that because the person abusing you hasn't, physically do it, is not abuse. So abuse can be emotional abuse, is your husband, your partner, your boyfriend putting you down all the time? Is he using your resources? Are you going to work but he's the one spending the money? Is he controlling you? Is he constantly checking your phone? Where are you going? What have you done? So for example, another of these ideas is young people in relationships. Sometimes the boyfriend gets this very flashy phone and he loves me so much, he spent that amount of money on me and now I have this beautiful phone. But sadly, what you sometimes don't know is that the fact that he gave you that phone gave him access to all your information. So he knows exactly where you are, who are you talking to, where are you going. So all that in itself is not an abusive relationship, but some symptoms or signs that you need to be wise to realize at the beginning, as a parent, as a friend, as a pastor, as a youth pastor, things that you should talk to. Also with young boys. One of the things we talk with young people is, how do you think a cool boy is? And a lot of this to do with actually how you portray your masculinity.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it is about power and domination. A lot of the music we listen to, a lot of the movies we watch is about how you dominate rather than how you share and build a relationship together. So even things, for example, how you treat your girlfriends. Do you treat them kindly, or is that a sign of weakness? If you are too kind, are you being weak? Is that a weakness rather than a strength? So I'm opening a few things here. It goes from the extreme of talking of 2 women being killed a week in the UK by intimate or ex-intimate partners to just very early relationships, boyfriend and girlfriend. How do they behave to each other? Is it a controlling relationship, or is a constructive relationship? And in between you have all others. Is that all right?
That's absolutely fine. I mean, we're speaking about both the domestic violence between adults. We're also speaking about the impact that abuse has had and is having on children as well. Christine, would you tell us parts of your story?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't suffer domestic violence or anything like that. Like as a child, I was sexually abused, and growing up, I didn't really have any recollection of it. I was just like going through the motions of like just living life. But also, I kind of, looking back now as an adult, I had symptoms, but I didn't realise that was a symptom of being abused. It was just, that's just the way that my life was. So from the age of 14, I was taken into care. And that was because allegations were made, and then that's just what happened. So from that age, I realised something must have been wrong in my home, whereas before that I never really thought that there was anything wrong in my home. Like it was just a normal upbringing. So going through that experience of like spending my teenage years like in the system, and also having these symptoms in terms of like self-harming and you know, being anorexic and just really not understanding where are these things coming from. Yeah, and also just, I think because like I still had a relationship like with one of my parents, it just made it a bit more harder, because it was like I still not necessarily believed, well yeah, I could say I believed what like my mother would say to me in terms of reasoning and how that relationship seemed to be normal, whereas like coming out of that situation, I kind of realised, oh, you're led to believe things that aren't true, and in your mind it's like those things, but how can they not be true? They made sense, like there was good reasoning behind it, good rationale, you know. And
so you think abusers almost convince people that what they're doing is right until you just believe that what's happening here is right?
I think it's more of a normal thing, especially as a young person growing up. I think it's more of this is just what happens like in your family, and also this is just how my family functions, and this is how love is, and this is how you need to be accepted. You need to be like what's the word, like just respectful to your elders, and you know that they're the ones that love you, and you just want to look up to them, and you know this is your safety net, and you don't really want to break out of that safety net. So it wasn't really until I was an adult and I left care that my memories started to come back, and that was like basically in the form of flashbacks. So that's when I realised like I actually was abused, because it's almost like you're denying it even though it's happening at the same time, because you just want to be like your friends basically. Yeah, so when that started to happen, also like I was a new Christian at the time, I didn't really understand God, you know, I was still self-harming, and I had like these things started to come back to me, like all these memories of my childhood, and it came back a little bit by little bit, so it wasn't just like all at once. But like through my adult life so far, I kind of feel like it's something that I'm still struggling with, because once you get to that safe place in your life, it's like that's when the memories come back to you. Before that, it's almost like you're protecting yourself, and you don't want to even think about it, or just think, oh yeah, my life was normal, I'm just like my friends, that kind of thing. There's nothing else that you think about. So it's not until those memories started coming back to me that I had to really own it, and like really put things together, and like just certain things, like things that I remember genuinely kind of added up the dots. Yeah, so it's like, but this happened, and I couldn't remember what happened after that. And in the memories that I have, not just of the abuse, but just how my life was, it's like these things actually did happen, and you know, I kind of felt like I needed to really accept that part of my life, and accept that part of me as well. Yeah.
Drew, what would you say in terms of, it's obvious that what people have done sometimes is they've created a norm for people, and in that norm they've abused people. They've made people think that what's happening is normal. What would you say to those people who think what they're doing, or they think what they're experiencing is normal? Like you were saying, this is what happens to people. My family's normal. You know, what would you say to those young people, young boys, young girls, or who or you know, women or men who are in a situation that they feel is normal but isn't normal?
I mean, well, first of all, they've got to, it's one in feeling it's normal, but have they accepted that it's normal, or are they just in denial? That's the thing about it, because you've got to get them to a place when they, for example, I mean, I know someone told me about the very same thing, and she believed it was normal, and then she had sex education, and then in education they were telling them obviously different, and so for her this was like, well, hang on a minute, no, but that happened in my family, you're trying to say I'm not normal, and it was very difficult for her to accept that. So she had to then check it with somebody else. So I think really and truly, I think what is needed is education more than anything else. I think there should be education in a sense that every child should be able to access something. Do you know what I mean? There has to be booklets, there has to be information that, because if that information was out there, people would not believe these things were normal. That's the problem about it, because it's a secrecy. So you've got to break the silence, you've got to stop covering up sexual abuse as if to say it's a secret, because as long as you do that, that's why it's happening, and that's why they think it's normal. But if it was in the open, if there were billboards, for example, do you know what I mean? Because you may come to me and I say, oh no, it's not normal, but you still think, no, it's normal. But there has to be a real constructive a force from the government as well to say, educate, that people can't, abusers can't do these things and keep it quiet, because they're getting children to believe it's normal, because it's not. So we have a responsibility, to be honest, to make sure that when these things are happening to children, it may happen once, but somehow there's something out there in school, in churches, on billboards, on television, to say it is wrong. Because that's the only way they're going to believe it, honestly.
But how okay, and so how does a normal person, not normal, how does a regular person doesn't know anything? When I say normal, I mean that someone doesn't know anything. Now, someone like me, who about a year or 2 years ago, this thing was something that happened, but it was a remote thing. It was something that I knew about. It's something that I thought happened, and I believed it happened, but I didn't think it was that close. I didn't think it was happening twice a month, as you were saying. I didn't think these things were happening. What 2 people die in a month is what you're saying. What do I now do? What can I now do?
What can you do
to help to pacify the situation? Okay. What can I now do?
Well, first of all, I mean, you've got to have an interest, because the thing about it, people hear about it, people know, a lot of people know about these things, but it's not their business. It's not affecting them. But if you don't care about people, it comes back down to that, right? The Bible says you should love your neighbors as you love yourself. So you hear about sexual abuse, right? Would you like it to be happening to you? No, you wouldn't. Would you like it to happen to your children? No, you wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So when you start to care about people, if you don't care, you're not going to do anything. And that's the truth. I'm just being honest, right? That's why it is the way it is, because people don't care. I don't care what. You know, some people say, well, we don't know. Yes, you do know. Most people know about it. But it's not affecting you, so you've got to own that problem. It's not that person's problem, it's our problem. It's all our problem.
Just tidy up with what you started at the beginning. I think sometimes the fact that people think this has happened in the home, then it's a home problem. It's closed doors, that's their issue. Let the dirty laundry is washed at home. That kind of culture, what it does is harvest this kind of perversive indifference, that it is not my problem, but it's their problem. So when we talk about, I think there's been a lot of road transit with the legislation for child abuse, because they realize that this shame and the stigma and let's not talk about it was actually the ground, the fertile ground for this to become an epidemic.
Wow.
So that in a sense, I think there's a lot still to be done, but I think there's been things that we can learn from what has happened with the issue of child abuse. So what has happened is that people have started to talk about it in the media, in the schools. We have sexual education, and then we also have legislation, board every level. Now every church needs to have child protection policy. Every organization has. Do you see what so that comes from the individual, as you say, we need to care, but also comes from the government and comes from every person who has the opportunity to have an influence on this child life, to make sure we are all checking. And that goes for any other issue within the home, whether it's child abuse, whether it's domestic violence. Every woman has different instances in their lives that can be checked. Normally women, and thank you for sharing your story, but you did share something very important that you didn't realize, because this was the norm for you. A lot of women living in domestic violence situations think this is the way it is. I need to submit to my husband, and
does that come from culture sometimes as well?
Oh, definitely culture. Culture plays a big part. And the first instance when a woman kind of says, well, actually this is not right, is when someone from outside actually opens a little window. So I have the story of this woman who has been living 60 years with her husband. She was in her 70s, and she's starting to go into a golden age group at church. and the worker at the Golden Age group realized the husband was always outside waiting for her and bring her, which is nothing wrong about it, right? But if she stayed longer, he will come and literally take her out. And so this worker started to ask other questions. You see, these are the triggers. There's nothing wrong with the first behavior, but it's just a trigger. Let's talk more about this. And then she realized that she has been abused for almost 50 years, from her 20s.
Wow.
In a horrific manner. Horrific, like never before. Anyway, they started a conversation, and for months, and she started just getting more information. And one day she said, look, I give you this card if you ever want to talk. There's still hope if you want. She didn't talk about leaving the husband or anything. Very, very conservative person. Doesn't even talk about leaving a husband here. But you know, what didn't she know is that all the time this woman was thinking about it. It was, and then later she came. I used to work in a refuge. That's how I know her story. And she said that each conversation they have, each week, it was like a bit of the scales coming out of her eyes, and she realized this is not the way this should be. And even at that age, she seek refuge and a safety. So what I'm saying is, I think it's very important. One, that we care. I think you were straight right there. But two, that we are informed of what to do. And no one needs to be an expert. So in case of domestic violence, there is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week telephone line, which is very easy. It's 08000 24/7, 0808 2000 24/7. And that is for anyone who feels is suffering domestic abuse, to talk. They're just going to talk to you. Or if you're concerned of someone that you know. If you just know that number, and if you feel your neighbor is in danger, your uncle, your auntie, whomever, just call. They will even tell you what to do. And the same with child abuse.
I don't agree with you, see.
No, okay.
No, I don't agree with you,
Disagree.
see. I don't agree with you, see, because you're talking about adults, and there's a difference. I mean, that's the difference.
Yeah,
that's very different.
Yeah, quite
Talking
clear.
about domestic abuse is a completely different topic than talking about sexual abuse, because we're talking about children, mostly. I mean, we're talking about children because that's where a lot of it's happening in the home, right? And you talk about policies and child protection. None of those things work. They don't work. And I mean, really and truly, if you want me to be radical, you don't like it.
Go for it.
Right? Because I will just tell you, because sexual abuse is happening, right? In this country, and it's been happening for generations, and it's been covered up from the top, right? People think, the public think that social services and child protection, everybody's here to protect people in this country, but it's not true, right? It's only because this country is really good at covering up their dirt. That's a real fact, because it's an epidemic in this country, and because it's so covered up, and because, I'm going to have to say this as well, the general public, it's like they've been given some kind of antidote or something. Something's wrong with them, the general public. I'm just telling you straight. I'm talking about the church and other people out there. As a matter of fact, to be honest, the people out there's got more sense than the people in the church. Because the church, our role, we're supposed to know God, right? And God is about love, and God is about caring, right? And even if you hear about this thing, you should be the core of your body, right? Because it's demonic. Sexual abuse is demonic. It's demonic. That's what it is. And it's not just sexual abuse. This is about, look, the Bible says he's looking for who he can destroy. The devil hates us and he wants to destroy us, right? That's his job. So what do? You get them as children, right? And then you got alcohol, you got drug problem, you got prostitution, you got prison population, you got self-harming, you got children in care, you got loads of stuff that's stemming from that. Loads of stuff. When people are in domestic violence, abuse, most of those people, I'm telling you now, have come from sexual abuse as well. A lot of them. They've got low self-esteem, they feel insecure, nobody else will love them, they take this rubbish from men. A lot of them are coming from sexual abuse as well. But sexual abuse is a different, it's a big can of worm, right? And I think people need to hone it. It's evil. Say it for what it is. It's evil. And until the public wakes up and said, you know what? We're going to do something about it. It doesn't happen. The government can put as much as what they want in place for it, but they're not going to make it work because they're covering it up. And that is the truth. They're covering it up.
I think the beauty about this show, especially, and the reason why we brought both of these issues, I know they're very, very different, but as you're speaking, I can see so many links also. is that we have sort of viewership who might be thinking right now, what do I do? What can I actually do? I mean, what does this really mean in my life? All I care about is getting the latest Balenciagas or getting the latest shoes or the latest trainers or that Chelsea win. And for some of them, as they hear this, as they hear both of them, they love this. This is nice. They want to hear that. Wow. They're shocked, but what do they do? What's next? What can I?
Okay, let me say something to you, and I'm not. This is not about plugging a child is crying. The campaign we started, right?
And we need you to say that to them. We need to know
It's not about
that.
plugging it. This generally is not about plugging it. I do the work I do, and I'm just telling you now, not because I want to. Because when I found about sexual abuse, I read about it when I was about 12 or 13 in a newspaper. I came to this country when I was 11. And when I read about it, I was really shocked that this could happen to people in their home, right? And so as time went by, I kind of started to find out more, and my solution was to leave this country, because I used to think this country is a dirty country, because I didn't know it was everywhere, right? And so you want to get out of it, but God spoke to me and said, you stay and you start a ministry. You start a ministry in this country. And I didn't know until 1 year later that I wasn't working with sexual abuse. So I'm not doing it because I want to, because I'm telling you straight, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And so we launched this campaign. We financed everything ourselves, and we launched this campaign in 2015. We have a video called Invisible Child on YouTube. And at the end of this video, you can go in, you can sign the petition. So we're not asking people for money, it costs us. Do you know something? Online, I think we have maybe about 2,300 signatures, and that's since 2015. And so we're asking people, just sign the petition. We're not asking you for your money. Why is it so difficult? Just think about it. So if you're not willing to sign a petition with just a signature, that takes you 1 minute, what are you going to do? What does that tell you? People don't care. I'm sorry, people are dead. They're living and they're dead. You know the Bible says, you see but you don't see, you hear but you don't hear? They're dead. We're talking about people in this country, and look, it's worldwide. But first of all, I know what God has said. We have to sort things out in this country before we can put our nose in other people's business, in other countries. And the problem with this country, they're so busy, I'm talking about the government now, they're so busy putting their nose in other people's business and pretending they've got it all right, and they're very, very nice, they're well spoken English, right? That they're covering up their stuff very well, right? But people need to wake up. People need to wake up. People need to look at themselves. First of all, we start with us. What is wrong with me? Why is it I could hear that children are being raped and it doesn't touch me? What is wrong with me? So until you got to go into yourself. You're not going to do nothing. You got to start questioning yourself. But the problem is you've got the church, of course, because everybody's saved and everybody go to church. Everybody's singing happy hallelujah, right? And everybody's happy. And they're all saved and we're all going to meet glory in heaven. It's a lie. Right? That's a lie from the devil. So people need to start looking at themselves. What is wrong with me? Why doesn't this touch me to the core of my being? Can you imagine a child in a bedroom and she nor dad is coming in that night to rape her? Can you imagine it? Would you like it? As an adult, you think about your dad if you have not been abused by your dad. Just think about it. Would you have liked your dad to come in at night? No, you wouldn't. So why don't you want to do something about this? Why does the church want to do something about it if this is demonic? Who's going to do it if it's not the church? I mean, there are people outside that's not in the church, and they're doing it because they genuinely care. But where is the church? I've been to churches with booklets, I've told them what I've done, and there's not one church. And the Holy Spirit told me to go to church and tell them what we're doing. Do you know what? Not one, but those also said none of them respond to you. Not one church. Not one church. And that's where God is supposed to be. Hello.
I agree and disagree with lots of Jean's, but I think it's really interesting and just important to say, there are a lot of differences of abuse, not just sexual abuse, children are abused in multifaceted ways, in controlling, manipulation, belittling, robbing them of their self-esteem, putting them down, emotional abuse, financial abuse, as well as sexual abuse. And that is distinct from adult abuse. But what I find interesting is you said often the women who are, and men as well, like men are abused as well. And because of the patriarchal system in our culture, that means that men can't fess up to, oh, my girlfriend hit me, or my girlfriend actually raped me, or my girlfriend belittles me because then you're not a man. In a way, there's even more shame and darkness that actually covers men suffering abuse. So a lot of men are suffering in silence a lot of men are actually being abused in silence, and they don't feel they can turn to anyone, because a lot of the shelters, rightly so, are actually safe spaces for women, and we've been focusing on that. So, you know, it is a man issue as well, but primarily it's choking women. But actually within that, I think it's not so much that necessarily people don't care as they're not hearing about it. People don't talk about it. Church is a place where we talk about the good things. We talk about how the Lord has provided, what the Lord has done for us. Amen and hallelujah. It's important for us to make sure that we are giving thanks. But church should be a space for reality where we can come and we can bring, here are my problems with my marriage. Not abuse, just my issues with my marriage. Here are my problems with lustfulness or pornography. How many men in our churches are struggling with that, which is actually feeding into slavery and trafficking? Because a lot of those women in those porn films are slaves. So we are actually feeding into this endemic and actually watching women get raped for entertainment because of our own pollution of our minds and the ready availability. But we don't talk about that in church because it's a nice place. We just talk about the homeless shelter and the food bank and the coffee rota. So I think so much of it ties in, but so much of it ties into just bringing them into the light. And as well as bringing into the light, then actually equipping and empowering people, like Kyalina was saying, of what to do next. Even if it is just make a phone call, or even if it is just actually go onto a website where you don't need to feel any pressure, but you can just go onto a website. So part of my training I do in schools is, here are the signs of trafficking. And I've had girls come up to me afterwards and say, okay, miss, I think my friend's being groomed. Can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah, of course, sweetheart. You know, let's talk. And you're like, oh, because you've now had the list given to you of, here are some of the behaviours. Okay, what to do next? So we need our vicars to have the confidence to actually challenge our congregations about these issues, to say church is a safe space to bring these ugly, dirty, dark issues, because if not in church, where? If not here, then where? And then practically empower and equip people with, here are the signs, here are actions you can take. And even down to just, I'm half Ghanaian, so I'm used to a more open way of home. I'm used to a home where people just rock up and come in and will be given food, and where you'll talk about your marriages and your secrets a bit more openly with a bit more familiarity. I think that in itself can help bring issues into light. Because like you mentioned, until that woman went to that group at the age of 70, she didn't have a comparison. Until that girl had sex education classes, there's no comparison. But actually, if we, and I mean us, if we led by example and talked more about how we're raising our children, about our issues, our struggles in our work, in our marriages, in our minds, in our own sinfulness, if we talked about that more safely with friends, then you'd suddenly hear a lot more coming out, actually, and then those friends would know it's a safe space to be able to come and talk in this environment here. And then we'd be able to actually support people a lot more quickly without it getting to be the Victoria Kimberley who actually got killed, and then the government and society realised, we all have a role to play.
If on both sides here, in terms of like both of these organisations that we're talking about here, if you had a megaphone that spoke to everybody in the world, and you were given 3 minutes, and it spoke to every living soul in the world, regardless of race, creed, anything, what would you say to them now, including talking about your organisation?
I'm sorry, still going to come back on. Would you like it to happen to you? Do something. If it hasn't happened to you, it could happen to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. It affects every single one of us, and every single one of us has got a responsibility. Every single one of us has got to own a problem. It's all a problem.
Can you talk a bit more about your organisation?
Well, Transformation Powerhouse, I think we've been a charity, we set it up in 2002, and we have people that come to see me because I'm a trained counsellor. I have people come and stay. I'm kind of trying to cut that down a little bit now. It's been like 14 years, been a long time. It takes a lot out of me. And we have a Child is Crying campaign, which we're doing that now to get 1 million signature. And the reason for that, to be honest,
how can they get access to that?
You can go on www.achildiscrying.org.uk.
We'll have all the information there.
And so the reason why I'm saying 1 million signatures, because until the government knows that people actually are not sleeping anymore. Let me put it that way.
Mm.
And they're going to rise up.
Mm.
They won't do what they need to do. So that's why we want to go force with a huge number of signatures.
Okay.
So people stand up and saying, this must change. I don't know how much people know about sexual abuse, but listen, it is an absolutely huge epidemic in this country.
We've got 1 or 2 events coming up as well. We'll talk about that for
Oh
a
yes,
minute before we move on.
we've got our awareness event on the 16th of September. Where about is it? At the Globe.
The
At
Globe
Globe
Academy.
Academy in
We're gonna be there.
Elephant Castle. And this is our 3rd awareness event, and it's going to be amazing. It really is. Please come. It's going to be, we're going to have a play, we've got some dancing, we've got music. It really is usually a really, really good night out. But you'll get information as well.
Information, I think that's the key thing,
But
isn't
there'll
it?
be information to educate people, bring them aboard. So we're hoping people attend and say, wow, we can all do
We
something.
can all do something.
Because,
Praise God.
you know, it's about unity.
Mm.
Unite to do something. Nobody can do it on their own.
Praise God. Same with you. If you had 3 minutes, any either of you, if you had 3 minutes, a megaphone to talk to every living soul in the world, what would you say? And talk a bit about your organisation as well.
I would say we're built to be in relationship with each other, and a key element of relationship is respect, and we need to respect every human being.
Praise
I mean,
God.
if that we all do that, there won't be any abuse. We are Restore. I work for Restore. We're a Christian charity, and we work to end violence against women. And we do that mainly by answering or trying to answer 2 questions. Where is the church, and where are the men when it comes to end violence against women? And we believe it's crucial because we want men to be part of the solution. This is not a women's problem, this is a human problem. So for that effect, we deliver training, and we produce resources, and we lead a campaign that is called First Man Standing, where we invite men to mainly pledge to do 3 things. Obviously to respect all women, but also to challenge other men when they don't respect women. If I challenge a man that is misbehaving or not respecting his wife, I have no power over him. But you, as a man, have a platform, and you need to use it. And you need to be part of the solution. Because the reality is, if you're not part of the solution, then you're proud of the problem. And the third one is, there is a worldwide campaign called White Ribbon. And every 25th of November is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And it's called the White Ribbon Day. And what we are asked is never to commit, condone, or remain silent about violence against women. So that's our campaign. And we do believe the church has a role to play. The church needs to be church. For every woman that is abused, and for every man that abuse as well. And that's why we work.
Praise God. Guys, we really hope that you were blessed by that, and you were blessed. We wasn't able to go into it in as much detail as we would like to, but we really hope that we've started to open something, even if it's a self-discussion and discourse in our minds, so that we can start to think about where we should actually be as individuals and as a church also. These 2 amazing organizations are doing amazing things, and they need your support and our support. So we're going to put all the information. It's all going to be on the YouTube channel and in the comments, and we pray that you'll be able to get involved and be part of what's going on for the good. God bless you, and see you at episode 5.